What an interesting congressional district. Let's bring him in right away. Jim Himes, you're going to love this, folks. I mean, there's like a zillion congressmen, and they all have talking points. Jim Himes has survival points. The 4th district, you've got the Bentley district. It's all the fancy cars, Greenwich, hedge fund city. And then there's Bridgeport. What a polarity in your district.
Sure, no, and you know, I'm lucky to have a district like that, and because at the end of the day, all the challenges that we face as a country are there, but also at the end of the day, it's a moderate district. It's a swing district, and someday when we have an opportunity to talk about why the Congress is so polarized, I'm going to try to convince you that the answer is we need more moderate, thoughtful districts.
Let's go there right now. Gerrymandering districts. Barbara B. Conable, the Republican, the great Republican, had a district. Bring it over here in the dolly, if you would. He had a district like this between Buffalo and Rochester. And Congressman, you have a real district. It's like a hunk, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's right. And you know, there's encouraging things happening out there. California using citizens commissions after decades of, safe seats for everybody in California. When we get more swing districts in this country, the Congress of the United States is going to better represent the people.
What is the distinguishing characteristic difference between Speaker Pelosi and Speaker Boehner besides the usual politics? What's the difference between the way the shop is run right now?
Well, I am very discouraged by the direction that the House Republicans have taken the country.
Excuse me, that's a break exclusive. Get right to that, Rex. Let's go. You're discouraged. Tell me why.
Well, look, on policy stuff, the budget that the Republicans put forward would have gutted money for highways, for infrastructure investment. But I was about to get to a compliment to the Speaker, and that is that he has run a very open shop. We have had lots of floor legislation that has involved amendment after amendment after amendment. He's really running an open place, and I give him points for that.
There is a debate on now. We've heard it. Al Hunt just speaking about it. The president, it seems, every third day is up. Who's the president speaking to in these press conferences? Is he speaking to inside Washington? Is he actually speaking to the public?
Look, I think he's mainly speaking to the public. The public needs to understand, and I think politically the president needs the public to understand that he's actually going a long way. He's probably at this point gone more than halfway, right? He's put Medicare, Social Security, he says we'll talk about these things, and he's pointing out that the Republicans have said no discussion of revenue of any kind. And so I think what he's doing is he's sort of putting himself in a position of saying, hey, I'm being reasonable here, and that will hopefully put some pressure on the other side to be willing to do what he said is necessary, which is no more maximalist stuff.
To so many of our audience around the world, we think of Connecticut. We go back to our first views of it. It may be the government contracts there, the industrial entrepreneur of the 19th century. I go back to Mark Twain, the Connecticut Yankees in King Arthur's Court. Look at this chart. Here's a decline in the 4th district of Connecticut. It's manufacturing in the U.S. as a percent of the population. We keep hearing here, Congressman, about a manufacturing renaissance. What policy do we need to instill that new manufacturing in Connecticut and in America?
Sure. Well, that chart you see there shows what everybody in Connecticut knows has been happening for a long time, which is that the weaponry, and Connecticut used to be, Bridgeport in my district used to be the arsenal of democracy.
Yeah,
those jobs are gone. Exactly. So what is the future? The future is innovative, creative, intellectually intensive jobs. We're not going to bend metal in Fairfield County, Connecticut anytime soon. So what does that mean? That means good infrastructure. That means highways and railways that run a lot better than they do in education.
Stop. Can you single-handedly get through an improved Amtrak from New York to Boston so the train doesn't stop on the Connecticut railways?
Tom, the nation that put a man on the moon can fix the railways between New York and Boston.
That's great. We can do that. Let's bring up this chart. You've all seen it before. The congressman hasn't. Jim Himes, our national anxiety, there's real disposable income up with your tenure at Goldman Sachs. I'm sure Ed McKelvey and Bill Dudley showed you this chart, and then we go flat. The people in Greenwich aren't hurting. You've got, you're arguably the 4th congressional district of hedge fund guys. What do they need to do to pay their fair share, as President Obama just alluded to?
Well, you can't get away from the fact that the top echelon of our society has done darn well in the last 20 or 30 years. And look, the president says he's part of it. And frankly, I used to work in banking. I was part of it.
Right.
And you know what? If you're going to allocate sacrifice, I think it's fair to say that group that did better, and look, the middle class and the bottom echelons, they haven't moved much in a generation or so. So why you would propose a plan which benefits that top echelon, which has been doing pretty well, and that hurts people below that is beyond me. But, you know, we're talking about rates now, which is not what we're talking about. We've been talking about deductions and loopholes. That's what the president featured today. Before we even talk about individuals, and by the way, the president said no tax raises for before 2013. We should be talking about all the inefficiencies in the tax codes that would bring in a lot more revenue, that would make for a simpler tax code, that would actually get, you know, oil companies and agricultural concerns, and I'm not just demagoguing them, but everybody paying their fair share.
Here's the Westport News, Charles Lewis, with a quote of yours. Charles Lewis, everything on the table in the Budget Balancing Act, Himes. I need to be really careful how I talk about this because I can just see the headline, Himes supports a 15-cent increase in a gasoline tax. Let's make some news. Would you support a 15-cent increase in a gasoline tax?
You know, this discussion was a discussion about Simpson Bowles, which, you know, I hope we can talk about a little bit more. But Simpson Bowles was a, you know, we're talking about the debt ceiling right now. It was an effort that was a good bipartisan effort that actually got votes from both sides in the Senate primarily, and it included an increase in the gas tax. Now, what I said about Simpson Bowles and what is true is that there's nothing in there that is fun to talk about, whether it's an increase in the gas tax or reducing the mortgage interest tax deduction. It is all awful stuff, but it was balanced. It was balanced, and that's why I'm one of the few members of Congress who said he would vote for Simpson Bowles were it to come to the floor. Importantly, I think that's the tack we need to take. It already got votes from Republicans and Democrats, so I hope that's where we go in the next week and a half.
You have to leave it there. Jim Himes, thank you so much for coming by.